Hello, everyone. Welcome to Professional Friday. Today we have an exciting guest, as every week. But I don't want to keep talking. I'll just say we have aeforia in our live stream today as an interview guest. I've collabed with him once on a music video, and it was a great experience. So I'm very excited to, have him on here and share some insight and some knowledge. Let's switch over. Here we go. What's up, man?
What up? Nice to see you, and then thanks for having me. It's an honor.
Thank you for coming, man. It was, I mean, we just collabed on that one video. It was what was it, like Little Pinch and
Uh,
Yachty? What was
yeah,
it?
I don't remember. It's a Young Pinch or something like that. Yeah.
Oh, Young Pinch and Little Skies, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
There we go.
That
There we
was so
go.
long ago. I remember. Like it was such a big project, super rush. I was drowning with work. I'm sure you were too. But it looked cool in the end. It was a very nice project to be a part of.
Yeah, it turned out really cool. Maybe we can check it out later. But for now, I would like you to just talk a little bit about yourself. Like, who are you? Where you come from? How did you get into 3D animation?
Yeah. Okay, sure. Well, my name's aeforia. Nice to see you, everybody. I'm an artist from Montreal, Canada, so I mostly specialize in 3D, but I do a lot of stuff like music, photography, graphic design. I actually have a bachelor degree in graphic design, which is kind of ironic because I that's not what I do for work. But I essentially started 3D back in 2017, I believe, or end of 2016, because at the time I kind of like started out doing photo collages of images using my mobile phone back in the days. And I kind of got hooked by creating art with my phone at the time. And eventually I downloaded Photoshop and I moved my workflow onto that software and it got a bit more professional. Started having some little client work here and there, like $50 projects for like artists. And I got really into that. I loved the creative process, making digital art, and I stumbled upon the work of Beeple and Slime Sunday at the time. He was doing 3D, and these guys were using Cinema 4D, and I remember being so impressed by what it looked like and like the flexibility that 3D would give the artist because I kind of had to deal with images I found on the internet to make my collages. But with 3D, you can literally make your own worlds. So
Yeah.
that was very appealing to me. And that's kind of how I got into it. I downloaded Cinema 4D and started doing work with it. I was very bad at first. I had to learn like everybody else. And eventually I got into these characters, and that's kind of how my style got uh, to, 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 to life. I just
Yeah.
found out that I could do like 30 characters and explore that style, and I just stuck with it ever since. I just love making characters and serial landscapes and all that. I'm not really interested in like making ultra realism and stuff like that. So yeah, that's kind
Yeah.
of how I got into it. Yeah.
I think it makes sense maybe to like look at your stuff while we keep talking about it, so people
Hmm.
can have like more context, like they see what we're actually
Absolutely.
talking
Yeah.
about. Yeah. So like you told me that we should check out your Instagram because you have your most recent personal projects on here. And
Exactly.
I think what you talked about, like I feel like there's definitely some graphic design influence in these in your projects, like especially like when you do stuff like this, right? It feels very like graphic design, but in 3D. It's very cool.
Yeah, got to point out this is a collaboration with Haven, and
Ah,
he
yeah.
did the frame design, and he also worked on the mask and like the like tail thing
Yeah.
that goes behind the character. So this was a collab between the two of us. But
Hmm.
I do
Hmm.
agree that my graphic design background gave me, I guess it's more of like giving me like the eye for color, composition, visual structures, and all that.
Yeah, for sure.
All that knowledge that you gain during college for that stuff, it can be used in any other field, even in photography. The way I see composition, both in 3D, is just the same to me. And like, I don't know, just when I see a good image, it makes sense to me, and it's just like my eye. So I guess that's what it brought to me, even though I don't practice graphic design professionally on a daily basis.
Yeah, but you're totally right with like learning about composition and lighting and colors. Like that stuff is just,
Yeah.
and I think also storytelling, like learning about storytelling,
Hmm.
how people perceive story and how like a story is being structured. All that like feeds so much into a work you can do. Like everything just starts to like
Yeah.
make so much more sense in your head when you create stuff with that knowledge.
Absolutely, yeah. And yeah, it also I gotta say like something it's quite maybe early to say that, but a lot of it comes from just trying it out, like experience and finding out your own voice because some people will say this and that there are rules and that you have to do this and that to make a good image, but at the end of the day, you just gotta train your eye to see stuff, and you gotta pause for a second when you see a good image and think like, why do I feel appealed to that image? What
Mm.
makes it a strong visual that is easy to remember? And over time, you'll get like a sense for what makes good imagery. And it's not like it's not something that comes like just after a week or two. It's something that takes years to build, but over time you'll just get better and better as much as like as long as you practice and keep inspiring yourself and finding new content work and look around, not just like 3D stuff, like just in general. You can be inspired by sculptures, photography, even like music,
Yeah.
literature, like anything that can generate an image in your mind can be a source of inspo. So that's
Yeah.
something I wanted to say. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I think especially music, like I've realized that over time, like also doing these interviews, talking with other creatives, it really feels like music is such a big inspiration for visuals, right? Like people listening to music just like creates images in their heads, and it really helps with the whole process.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything you would like particularly like to show off here from your work? Should we look at something particularly?
I think something that's kind of cool that I've been dabbling with recently is this mocap workflow. So I've been lucky enough to be gifted a Rococo mocap suit. So thanks Rococo for this.
Nice.
Um, and I've been implementing it in my workflow a little bit more, and I've been loving it because before I was animating manually in Dash Studio, which was like the most painful process ever known to humankind.
Really?
Yeah, no, I don't know, it was just so bad. Like, but at the same time, it's a free software, so I cannot
Mhm.
like talk badly about it. Like I love DAZ Studio, but animating manually was such a painful process
So
that
it's just
having
not
this
made for
tool,
that, I guess.
no, well, not really. Yeah, it's not optimized for that for sure.
Hmm.
But I've been using that workflow instead much more recently. Like if you go up, like I did a piece, yeah, the one with the head coming off the ground. It's
Oh,
like
this one?
yeah, this one. This one was actually a scan of myself that I rigged and
Oh,
I mocapped. So it's like myself animating myself, which is kind of interesting.
that's cool. Yeah.
But it's such fun, and it makes for a much more natural movement. And uh, recently, I've been discovering this software called iClone 8. So
Hmm.
I gotta say it's paid, like you gotta pay for it. But for me, it's been such a good tool to like clean up my mocap. They have like really useful tools to make it cleaner. Like I don't know, with the Rococo workflow and the Mixamo rig, sometimes you get like these really bulky shoulders, like for some reason. And in iClone 8, you have a slider that just make the character like slouch a little bit, and it reduces that weird effect, so it makes it much more natural. So if you look at this mocap as an example, it's not the best in the world, of course, but it looks natural. It looks almost like the real thing. So
Yeah.
yeah,
It
been
feels
loving it.
extra smooth to me though. Like, did you smoothen it out or did you just move that way?
I I moved that way. I think I might have. No, I think it's in real time, so I didn't slow it down, but I definitely smooth it like the whole thing.
I
I removed like the imperfections, just because I didn't want it to be jittery, like the hands shaking or stuff like that.
Mhm. Yeah, interesting. I think in general, like all your work feels very, I would say like it's interesting. Like it's a mix between comfort and challenge, right? Like it feels comforting to look at, but when you look at the details, like you have all these intricate shapes and also like a little, I would say like almost uncomfortable, like really like closed in poses. So it's like a
Yeah.
cool mix between yeah comfort and um, I don't know the other word. I don't know the other perfect word for that, but Yeah, you know what I mean, right?
Yeah, totally. It's definitely an intentional choice. I kind of like my characters to have this calming effect. You look at them; they're not like not all like some of them are, but they're not like um, too intimidating, I guess. But
Hmm.
when you take a closer look, they still have like these big ass hands, and like they have these masks that are kind of like organic and sort of scary. I know a lot of people say like, "Oh, this is scary." Um, and some of them hold like knives and stuff like that. So of course it's not like super peaceful of a visual, but that in the choice of colors and all that, I'm always be careful to make it like I don't know, kind of soft and reassuring.
Yeah, it almost
It's
feels
a
like
very interesting style.
soft metal, you know?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's kind of like that. It's an interesting contrast. That's for sure.
Mm, nice. All right, cool. Yeah, I would
Thank you.
switch over back to the interview setup now. I think we looked at some stuff. Let me look at my
Perfect.
questions here. Oh yeah, what is your favorite experience or project that you've ever worked on so far?
Oh, well, I think without a doubt it would be the project I've done for Odessa. So I
Hmm.
was fortunate enough to work with Odessa for the past like I don't know 3 years. Well, not in 2025, but in 2022 until 2024. I got to work on their tour called The Last Goodbye. So I initially was approached to create a character for the intro visuals. The direction was spearheaded by Luke Tanaka. So big shout out to him. He brought me on board, and I don't know. I think they liked what I did, and they got me back again to make another visual for them for the song Sun Models. That was for like the second leg of their tour, and eventually I got hired to do promotional content like the final leg of the tour. They hired me to create a visual for the poster. I got to design the artwork for the live album, like make the character for it. The art, like not the graphic design, of course, but the key visual was done for that. And I even
Hmm.
got to make the key visual for the deluxe edition of the album, which was literally a dream come true. Because I remember back in 2017, I think I was discovering Odessa, and I was such a big fan, and still am
Mm.
today.
Yeah, yeah, the
And
music is great. Yeah.
yeah, I did some fan art, and I actually posted it on my Instagram back in the days. And like to be the one creating the artwork, I don't know, like 6, 7 years later was such a full circle moment for me.
This
And
is
yeah,
also really sick. Like you
yeah,
designed the helmets and they actually ended up using them on the for the crew, yeah, for the
yeah,
musicians.
yeah. So I of course I created a 3D design for the mask that was used on the CGI character, but then they took that file, they sent it to a company called Dark Moon Designs, I believe, and that company made the masks out of it.
Mm,
And
awesome.
the drum line, which is like the one of the most like fascinating aspects of their show, all the drum line was using the mask, not all the time during the show because I think it's quite cumbersome and you don't necessarily see very well in it. But it was such a cool thing to see my work being translated into real life for the first time ever. I've never done 3D printing before for some reason, so
Ah,
seeing like my work being used in real life at such a large scale was such a surreal moment. And yeah, so I'm very, very happy to have had the chance to work with these guys. The whole team is very talented and creative. Like they have people who put a lot of effort into curating amazing visuals for the tour, and they have amazing direction. And even the musicians, they're awesome and super kind people. I got to meet them twice, and I had a lovely time. Such a good show, such a good crew.
awesome. I mean, yeah, that honestly sounds like a dream project. Like you're already a fan of the
Yeah,
band, and then you get to participate so much in building their world around them, right?
yeah, exactly. It was such a lovely project, and it's also very nice when you know like you get to do these fine projects for people you don't necessarily know, and it's all fine, it's cool. But when you get to work with people who inspire you, I think it's such a bonus value. You know, like it makes it so much more fun and memorable, and so that's why it's my favorite project because I've been listening to their music for such a long time. I was a
Mm.
fan before they even knew my work, and being able to work at such a large scale and have such a big role in the last tour it was a big honor for me. So
Yeah,
I
yeah,
hope I get to work with them again in the future. If they do another tour someday, I would be so glad to work with them again.
yeah. That's super epic, man. I'm so happy for you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
What is actually your goal for the next year? Like coming up into, yeah, I guess this year already started for almost 3 months now, but what do you want to accomplish in this year? Where do you want to go?
Yeah. Well, if I had to be like fully transparent, I don't really know.
Uh-huh.
Because it's just like I've been doing this project for so many years, and I feel like my style has been quite consistent over the past few years, but I've managed to refine it even more and even more. Like I've been learning a lot of software, and I feel like my work is much more detailed and refined than it was like back in 2017, let's say. So at this point, I'm still not sure where I want to go with that style, but what I definitely want to do more is collaborations and um, interact more with like real life stuff. Last year I got to create a ring with one of my friends, and that was such a nice project to create an actual physical object. Like it was sculpted in ZBrush. It's the same workflow that I do for my characters, but to know that this was um, going to be used by people and worn by people uh, was such a nice thing for me. Like, because my work has always been digital and on screens and consumed on screens, on phones, monitors, or like in galleries, but on big TVs. So having that like tactile part of your work is super important for me, and it's such a new it's a new process on my end. So I think this year I want to dive more into like making like sculptures or more jewelry, and not necessarily to sell them or anything, but just for myself, just to get myself out there and step out of my comfort zone and experiment more with like actual physical stuff. So that's definitely one of my goals. But otherwise, I just want to do more personal work because I feel like last year I didn't get to do as much as I wanted. And for me, it's like that's why I started doing 3D. It's just a way for me to, I don't know, forget about everything, lose myself into my own world. And I just love making images. It just makes me happy. So even if I don't know, if I ended up working in another field in 10 years, I'm pretty sure I would still make art for myself even though it's not for commercial purposes. I have big love for the craft, and that's why I keep doing it year after year. So I just want to do more personal work, do more physical stuff, and hopefully get to work on some cool client projects along the way. Um, if I do all of that, I'll be very happy, to be honest.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, sounds good. I mean, I had like a little like idea or like a question, I guess, for you when you said like you were pretty consistent with the style so far since you started aeforia. Do you feel
Yeah.
like you wanna express a new style at some point? Do you feel like there's an urge to go in a different direction or try like a new alias or something?
Yeah, well, that's a question that's been burning in my mind for years. I feel like I'm in a situation where, let's say, if you're posting on social media, people know you for something, and if you move away from that, it will show. Like your reach will be different and all that. But I don't want to do art just for like social media, of course.
Hmm.
So in regards to that question, I think I don't necessarily want to stop making characters because it's just so much fun. I love it so much. But I think I want to explore more techniques maybe that could be used to create those characters. I've been working on a piece that I'm gonna release soon, and I took back my Oculus headset and I used Medium, like the
Oh,
VR sculpting thing.
dude, yeah, I just
Um,
started using it this week too for
Really?
my
No way.
submission for the Chasms Call render challenge.
Oh, cool. Yeah, yeah, that's such a good idea. I've used to use it back in the days because when I was sculpting masks and stuff, I was using Medium. But when
Hmm.
I found out about ZBrush, I felt like it was much more suited for the task. And I don't know, working in a VR headset for hours, it's quite jarring. So I tried to avoid it. But just took back my VR headset, put it back on, and started like doing shapes, and it was a lot of fun. And there's a lot of artists that inspire me, like the guy's name is Kushlet. He's such a talented artist, and um, I don't know. I just want to do some stuff that is more organic and abstract, maybe. Because I lately I've been doing a lot of polished pieces that take like weeks to make, and I spent like countless hours making stuff. But maybe like going back to like more spontaneous workflows can generate very interesting outcomes, you know?
Yeah, no, I think that yeah, it's very good to find new workflows and new techniques and experiment with new styles. Like you said with VR, right? Like it's for me at least, it like really opened a whole new way of creating and like also a completely new style that I didn't thought I could do, right? So it's
Yeah.
I think that happens with almost every medium you use to create. Like even if like you use iClone now, like that will also probably impact your style in some way by the tools that are available to you through that.
Yeah, honestly, it's so true. And that's why I feel like I gotta still experiment. And maybe one day I'll get into Houdini, you know, like because I've tried learning it a few years ago and I just stopped. But maybe that would be the next step too, like getting to learn some stuff in Houdini and maybe finding ways to incorporate this knowledge with my characters
Hmm.
and make some really interesting stuff, like you know, with like growth simulations and all that. That could be very cool. Kind of weird, but very cool. Um, so yeah, I don't know. I like characters. I don't know necessarily what else I would be doing, and if I was going to be doing something completely different, I think it would be another project probably. I don't. I don't know. It's such a mystery for me that I don't want to say that I know for sure what I want to do. But there are some little tracks here and there that I can follow, maybe that will lead me somewhere. But I firmly believe in collaborating with people who do like different stuff than you do. Like my friend whom I collaborated with for the ring. We also did some Eclipse glasses last year. So
Ah.
like doing that kind of stuff. Actually, I got it right there.
Oh damn,
Let
yeah, show them
me.
off. Well, I'll show them here on the
Yeah,
screen. This
yeah.
them, right? Oh wait, yeah.
Yeah.
Really
There you
cool,
go.
yeah. Oh dude, I would love to
So
like have these at a mask ball, you know, just walk around with these.
yeah.
It feels so fancy.
Yeah, so it was very cool. So this was like sculpted in 3D. Oh, you don't see it. So this was sculpted in, oh my God, it's like
Right? Yeah,
reversed.
that
Okay.
direction, yeah.
This is sculpted in 3D. This was hand sculpted. So it was a really nice collaboration to bring this to life. And there's like a diamond in the middle right here. It's a rough diamond.
Oh, real
Um,
diamond.
yeah, but it's like
Nice.
rough, so it's not the same. But yeah, it was such a nice project. So I loved it.
Nice. Maybe actually, do you think you will experiment more with the physical world and maybe like you start physical and bring that back into 3D? Is that something you've tried a lot in the past?
Oh no, I haven't, but maybe there's something there. I don't know, maybe with sculpting stuff in real life and then scanning it.
Yeah,
I don't know,
yeah,
maybe that could be interesting.
yeah. I
I
mean,
could try that, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Have
I
you
would, I
tried
would
it?
say, yeah. I did it together with a friend for a music video. Like he sculpted kind of like crystal faces, with clay, and then I
Oh,
3D scanned them, and yeah, it was really cool. It was a really nice process. I mean, honestly, I think like with a skilled 3D artist, of course, you can do it directly on the computer too, but it's just the workflow, right? Like it's fun to do it physically. Like it's I think it's just good for the artist it's themselves to feel like they're doing fresh things and they're using different ways to express themselves. Yeah.
yeah, totally agree with that. Yeah.
All right. I would like to know a little bit about how you see the creative industry right now, like working in the creative industry with these musicians and with brands. How is it for you? Like, what do you see?
Well, I get to see a lot of stuff. Like I don't do you know, like I don't have any recurring clients. I It's just always new projects. So it's definitely something maybe different from many others who have, I guess, projects that just come back, like you get a regular client. So I get to see a lot of workflows and teams and stuff like that every single year. Um, and some things that I found interesting was that in a lot of projects recently, AI has took a lot of place in the um, like brainstorming phase. You know,
Ah,
you
okay.
might be aware of that. But like in a few projects, there was a project I don't think I can talk about, but I essentially had to make a visual for like a hospital, and essentially I had to follow an AI sketch,
Hmm.
and I had to like take that as my like main inspiration and essentially just make it in 3D. But of course, it's going to look cleaner and much more polished. But it was definitely an interesting concept to take an AI reference and having to replicate it in real life. And it's something I think we'll see much more of because I got to do it a few more times after that. And it's definitely an interesting, like, I don't know, dilemma maybe, because at the same time, I don't do AI in my work. I will use some parts for some elements, like as an example, in one of my recent pieces, I used AI to generate like a very small element to put on the helmet, but I also cleaned it up in Substance Painter. So it's like I didn't use the actual thing, but I used it as a base to create something else out of it. But having this as the main reference for a project is definitely interesting, and that's something I've noticed in the past few projects I've been working on. Um, but otherwise, I don't know. I think in general, that's something I noticed. But at the same time, when you work on projects with musicians, that really, I don't know, the like Odessa, I felt like that was such a very nice, like such a nice project because there was a clear vision, and the people were who were like leading the projects were very knowledgeable. So there's a lot of stuff that you can do, and I think it's great to have like many different ways of doing things. So I'm not saying that to say that like starting with the AI image was like a bad thing. Not at all. It's just something I noticed, and that is very interesting because to me, like at the end of the day, I'm being hired an actual human to make the work in the end, but it starts from the AI perspective. So that's definitely interesting.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, I've seen AI generated generators being used for just concept art and stuff a lot, more
yeah,
and more now, especially when it just comes to the first pitching phase, right? Like when agencies create decks to pitch their ideas and projects to clients. Uh,
yeah.
yeah, they tend to just use AI because it's super fast. It's basically free. Um, so yeah, and I think, I mean, to me, it feels like pitches have become better in the last years because of that, right? Like you are it's much easier to like imagine a final product now because you have all these reference images generated now.
Yeah.
That was much less the case back like a few years ago, right? Like it was way more text and way more references from other places that
Yep.
looked like they didn't really belong so much together. So I think in general, it helps at least the agencies and clients to like find the correct projects. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, I'm not sure about the kind of like concept artists themselves, like how much it impacts them. Um, yeah.
I think there's a lot of impact. I've heard about studios shutting down and people getting laid off, and I'm pretty sure there's definitely I think AI might be a cause of that, but at the same time, it's such a tough thing because it's like the economic situation right now is not very bright, and having this tool that generates images in seconds for a low cost, like I don't know, you cannot stop this technology at this point. So it's pretty heartbreaking that some people might get laid off because of that. Um, but yeah, I agree that at the same time, not having to, because I've also seen in the past like mood boards with projects from people I actually know, and the clients wanted me to actually just replicate their style directly. So that's even worse than trying to replicate AI content that might have been generated with other people's work.
Yeah, it's like a mix of
So
a lot of different people. Yeah.
yeah. So I don't know where to stand on this, but I do agree that it brings a lot of good, but also some bad things. So it's definitely something that we'll have to learn to navigate with in the next years because it's not going away and it's going to be taking a lot more space. But I still believe that the human touch is going to be important. And so far, like being able to like when you're a human working into 3D software, you have so much more room to just refine some detail without having to regenerate the whole thing.
Yeah.
So that control and the level of detail that is possible with the human input, so far is still like king over AI. I feel like, because you see those videos, they look great and very detailed, but you still see some weird stuff happening. So yeah, so
Yeah.
far so good, but who knows what will happen in the next few years.
Honestly, the thing that I think that must change is that AI, like AI image generators and video generators, they need to get kind of like a royalty system where people, like the data set
Yeah,
basically gets paid, right? So whoever
yeah,
contributes their work into the data set gets royalties for that data then being used for commercial generation of images, right?
yeah,
I think that's something all artists should like push towards and like give like put companies under pressure for to like put these systems in there, because yeah, as you say, I think it's probably gonna stay. Like it's too useful to not to just vanish. So it's probably
yeah.
gonna stay, but it's gotta become ethical in some way. Like, and I think that's the easiest way.
Yeah, definitely. And what I'm scared of is, of course, like everyone wants to cut costs like at all costs. And I'm just afraid that, like, well, we already know that like some big companies use data sets that are kind of sketchy. Um, so how to, well, like some of the damage has already been done, but hopefully some of those companies take accountability and go into a more ethical sourcing of their content, because the AI cannot just like create stuff out of nothing. They gotta train the AI on data that already exists. So I definitely agree that in an ideal world, the AI companies would ethically source their content, and that artists whose content is being trained on get compensated for that, because there's a lot of money being poured into this, and at the end of the day, the artists don't get anything,
Yeah, which
but
doesn't
their
make
work
any
is being
sense.
used.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
like
exactly.
I mean, yeah, it's like I mean, these models wouldn't like can't exist without artists. So it's only fair that artists get a share of it, right? Like it's
Yeah,
their
it's
work being
it's
used. So
yeah, it's hard to implement, I'm pretty sure, but who knows? Well, let's hope for the best.
yes, I mean, not only hope, we need to push. Like we need to tell
Yeah,
companies this is what we need, this is what we want.
definitely. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Okay. Do you see like my next question kind of like on that path also is, do you see any new developments or technologies or even just I guess ideas that are worth checking out, that are worth getting into right now?
Well, speaking of AI, I got to work on a project with two artists that I've known for, like, I've been following their work for years, and essentially they've been dabbling more with AI, and I got to essentially replicate some AI images, but into real life with like 3D. So I essentially I took AI images and I modeled them in 3D, and
Hmm.
there's this workflow that was very interesting, kind of scary though, but it's called oh geez, I don't remember. Let me. Oh yeah, it's called Hunyuan 3D. Hunyuan 3D. And
Okay.
essentially what that does is that you can input a 2D image and it will generate a 3D mesh out of it. Of course, it's like super low res, but sometimes just taking the AI sketch and putting it into that software and like taking the generated mesh, it was much faster to do that and use the mesh as a base to work on than
Mm.
trying to do it from scratch. So that was actually a very interesting workflow. So if, let's say, you take a photo of I don't know, a building outside or a rock that you found, if you don't have a 3D scanner, you could probably just put it into that website and it will generate a mesh based on what it sees. And that's such a cool workflow, I think, even though it's like AI, it's pretty interesting to be able to like get such fast results and use that as a base. So that's what I was doing essentially. I was taking that as a base. Of course, there's a lot of cleanup to do in ZBrush, so you cannot just get away with it like that. But it was super interesting, and something that we already talked about it, but something I think that is getting a lot more interesting is like animation using mocap tools or AI video mocap stuff. I think um, a lot of the cool stuff I've seen was people actually animating characters with mocap, getting some real looking results. I'm always blown away by those. So that's definitely something I'm gonna keep doing because it's such a cool workflow and it saves so much time.
Yeah.
And also, I've heard about this software called Cascadeur. I've never used it yet,
Ah,
but
yeah. I always wanted to. I downloaded it back then when the first alpha came out, and I basically have it laying around on my hard drive for since forever, and I
yeah,
always wanted to
same.
try it on a project, but I so rarely have to do a character animation that I never really commit on learning it, and when I need to do character animation, it's very minimal, so I just do it in Blender directly. But yeah, it looks
Mm.
super fun for actually doing like longer and like more action based animations. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. So it's I've seen a bunch of tutorials without actually doing the learning, but from what I could see, the workflow is super interesting because uh, there's an AI in the software that will interpolate and generate animation based on physics. So if you make your character do some stuff, then you like use that tool to then generate the motion. It will use physics in order to create like realistic movement. So for
Hmm.
any artist who wants to do like more character animation, this also comes for free with the Octane subscription, like this the studio
Oh.
subscription, I believe. So essentially, it's such a big deal. Like you pay for the price of Octane, but you get Grayscale Gorilla Plus, you get Cascadeur, you get World Creator to generate landscapes. So it's very interesting. So I recommend people who are interested in doing more character animations to look into those tools because it seems pretty crazy. But I personally just have the mocap suits, so I do it all myself. It's just a different workflow.
Nice. Yeah. I've depending like talking about mocap, I also saw like I got an email from do you remember Wonder Dynamics, Wonder Studio? The,
Wonder Dynamics.
yeah, I think it's Wonder. Yeah, Wonder Dynamics. It's this online tool where you can upload also footage,
Oh,
and then it
yeah,
turns it motion captures it, and like it replaces the human character with a CG animated character, right?
yeah.
Fully automated. And they sent me an email yesterday announcing they have predictive motion capture now. So that means like even if not your whole body is in the shot, it will like kind of like calculate and capture everything outside of the shot also. So like when I don't know, yeah, when you only shot like on the head, right, and you move, you
Yeah.
walk somewhere, it will still animate your whole body like walking. So
Oh,
that's
damn.
yeah, so that's something I want to check out next Tuesday for New Tool Tuesday. I'm learning a new tool every Tuesday, but yeah, so that seems very exciting. I'll let you know if it works well or not.
Oh, yeah. Please let me know. That sounds so sick. Like, it's getting crazy, and I think those uses are very are very fun for artists, like to be able to like because we always hear about AI, but like being like these Mid Journey and image generator stuff, but there's a lot of technology that can be used for just improving the workflow in 3D. So it's not
Yeah.
like you gotta leave 3D tomorrow today because you're gonna have to generate images tomorrow with AI. You can use AI to improve your workflow directly in your 3D software, which I think is like such a relief because some aspects of the workflow of being a theater artist can be quite tedious, and if you can save some time here and there, sometimes it makes a difference. But I still believe in the love for the craft. So if some people, I think there are two camps, or it doesn't need to be like divided. You can still like take your time to make a custom animation if that's what you want to do, and if you have the time to do it. But if you don't have the time and you're in a crunch, having those tools available is such a blessing, you know. So it's just like just choose whatever fits best to your workflow.
Yeah. I think on that topic also, I think in general, we're gonna just have more single artists doing more work, right? Like kind of like single
Yeah.
artists doing a whole work for like a scale of a whole studio. Um, and yeah, I think that's the whole direction that it goes to. And I think, I mean, in general, it's a cool thing because then like singular artists can really express their artistic vision in a very focused way, right? Like really
Yeah.
being able to project exactly what they want to with all the like efficient tools that are available. And on the other side, of course, you need less people working on projects. So yeah, it's again plus and minus. But I think it's
Mhm.
also that more people can create their own brand and their own kind of like content by themselves, right? Like it's
Yeah,
so even if less people are needed to work on one big project, everyone can work on their own projects more easily and therefore like create their own following and create their own social media brand and stuff like that.
absolutely. Yeah. There's no better time than now to do this, to be honest. Like, I don't know, 10 years ago, it was a totally different landscapes. There were so many fewer tools. So nowadays, I feel like it's if you want to start 3D, it can be daunting because there's so much noise and a lot of people doing it, and but also you got so many resources out there. So it's such a great time to start learning it. And a lot of people like you are doing tutorials and helping the community to just to learn. So I feel like it's amazing that we get access to such a vast quantity of information nowadays.
Yeah, it is really cool. Yeah. And basically
Yeah,
anyone who wants to do it can do it now. Yeah.
definitely.
Oops, here.
Es
Oh yeah,
geht
I would slowly
etwas
start to
follow.
get into student questions here, or just chat questions, like from the viewers. So if you're watching this and you have any question, just type it in the chat, and we will answer them. You can ask directly Euphoria. You can ask both of us. Yeah, we can just start whole conversations. Oh yeah, and if you have a student membership, you can just join the live stream channel on Discord directly and talk to us with your voice. Let's
Nice.
talk about it.
I see Oscar in there. Hi, man. Nice to see you.
Oscar. Nice,
Yes,
nice.
he's
Yeah.
he's a really talented artist, like who does
Awesome.
illustration.
Oh,
Very cool
okay.
guy. Yeah. And
Yeah.
he was one of my first friends in the mobile phone editing community. So he's like one of the first artists I got to meet like in 2014, like such a long
Ah.
time ago. Yeah,
That's cool. You both
he's
were
an
very much
OG.
into mobile. Was it like image editing or video editing on mobile?
Image, yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
What was the tool that you used back then for image editing?
Oh God. I there was an app called Mixtures. It was like a bunch of filters that you could use on your photos, but like to blend images together, I was using an app called Union.
Uh-huh.
And essentially it was like Photoshop, but you only had one layer. So
Oh, okay.
you had to flatten the layers every time you wanted to add some stuff on top. So it was a very
Uh,
destructive process.
yeah,
But I used like 10 different apps. There's so many of them. That's why when I moved to Photoshop, then it was much more easy because I would have all of those tools, but just in one package.
yeah. There's one mobile photo editing tool that I can recommend a lot, and I feel like it's very underappreciated. It's called Fantasia Painter, I think.
Oh,
It's it looks a bit janky, but it actually works really well in my opinion. Like it's got a lot of cool features, a lot of like painting tools and like morphing tools and stuff. So yeah, just a little tip.
very nice. I wrote it down. I'm gonna check it out.
Nice. All right, we got a question here from Delcast TMB. What would you recommend to do to get into the industry using LinkedIn, Instagram? Okay,
Mm.
what's your opinion?
Well, like I started out a long time ago, and it was such a different landscape. TikTok was not a thing. Reels didn't exist. I started out before stories were even a thing on Instagram. So I think that the way I got in is probably not the same way. Like it's not. There's no recipe, but I feel like nowadays, from what I'm seeing, um, just share your work. I don't know how else to do it. Like a lot of people, they wait until they have the perfect piece before posting. And while I understand that that quality is always prime, when you're starting out, it can be intimidating. But I totally advise to share your work. And it's not like you don't need to be like the best in your field to share your work. I don't consider myself like a great artist. There's so many people much more talented than me, and I still
Dude,
share my work.
you're a
And
great artist.
no, but like like the imposter syndrome. You feel like you see other people's work, and you feel like I don't know, I've been doing this for almost 10 years and I still feel intimidated seeing like other people's work.
Hmm.
And if I was always listening to myself, I would never share my work. So I feel like it's important to just go ahead and just do it. And if you scroll back all the way down on my feed, you'll see what I'm talking about. My first work is horrendous. I deleted some stuff, of course, but I just shared my stuff, and I've along the way I met some people, and like that's such an important part of the process. Like meet people who are at a similar stage as you, and together you can grow and learn from each other. And also along the way, you'll meet people who are a bit more advanced in their journey, and those people will just from seeing their work or talking with them, you'll learn a lot, and that will help you so much along the way. So to me, like that's one trick I have to say to everybody: just share your work. And of course, nowadays reels seem to be king. TikTok seems to be king. So I don't do it personally, but I'm pretty sure that like being consistent with your reels and following trends is a good way to gain followers. But yeah, so just share your work. It's not all that there's to it. There's a bit of luck involved too. Like I'm not gonna lie, like even if you share for years, you might not get the same amount of luck as someone who has been doing the same thing. So yeah, and be that like share your work across many platforms. Don't be afraid to use all of them if you have the time to. Like share your work on X, but maybe not X. I don't know. I don't like X
Oh
anymore.
no, I
But
left X, man.
yeah,
That's it. Just
share your
keep it
work
in
on
B. Just
Behance, share your
subscribe to
work
this
on
pile.
Facebook, even though it's kind of like not cool anymore. Share it on Instagram, on TikTok if you can. ArtStation, just be out there. Whatever platform you feel connected to, just share on it.
Hmm.
You never know what can happen. People can connect with your work, and that can bring you further along the way. Um,
Yeah, I
but
think
I'm not gonna say
on.
that I know the recipe to get success in this new ecosystem because that's not. I've not been doing this for a year. I've been starting out like many years ago, but I've definitely noticed a difference in like the video format. Like video seems to be performing much better than stills. So that is a bit of a shame for me because I prefer doing stills. That's my favorite medium over video. But doing a lot of video, sharing your process also works incredibly well. People resonate with that because I feel like people they see an artist's work and they don't really understand. They can appreciate the beauty of it, but they don't necessarily understand the work that goes behind it because it's such an abstract concept. When I look at a painter's work, I don't know what's the work that has been put into that piece because I don't paint and I don't know that world. So when I see a painter show their process and seeing like the rough sketch on pencil and then see the painting evolve over the few hours or days that it took, it's really inspiring and it makes for a very interesting content, and I think a lot of people can relate to that. So and when I shared process reels about my work, people tend to engage more with it. So try that, and yeah, good luck to anyone who starts. It's a big journey, but it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, yeah, no, yeah, I agree with everything you said. There was a lot of a lot of good information. And I think something that everyone can focus on is sharing what they're passionate about, or there's something that excites them, right? Like because there's always
Mhm.
like these small moments where you think, oh, this is so cool that this actually works, or yeah, there's these like so cool moments. Like make sure that you when you might want to make a social media presence, that you capture those moments when you come across something that excites you and that you think is cool. Just share those moments. I think that's a big
Yeah,
part.
100%. And it's such a cheesy quote, but your network is your net worth. Like, to be honest, like it really is. If I got to work on some amazing projects like Odessa, it's because I was friends with someone who knew someone and they found out about my work. And I got to collaborate with many artists over the years to make some really cool pieces. And just seeing how others work and seeing their process or their mind, like how their mind works, really helped me to become a better artist. So even though we're all like focused on chasing numbers, chase connections too. Connections
Mm.
are far more worthwhile than the numbers and the likes because you might get a TikTok or a reel that blow up, but then after that, your Instagram will just crash your engagement for some reason because you're trying something different. But if you have a lot of people you can talk with or share ideas with, that's so valuable and precious, at least to me, and I think a lot of people could agree with that.
Yeah. I think that's also something that I learned and realized over the last 2 weeks is that in general, social media is getting more niche. So the people tend to have less followers and less views, but
Yeah,
the connections you have are getting stronger. So yeah, just focus on basically the connections that you have and like strengthening the connections you have and the connections you want to build instead of trying to appeal to everyone because there's so many
yeah.
people doing this stuff now that you can't really appeal to everyone. So just to focus on what you like and focus on the small community and group that you feel connected to.
Absolutely. And I see a question in the chat, how to chase connections. I feel like I have no connections other than people I met at university. Well, first off, if you found people at university that you're connected with, that's really great. I still, my friends from university, I still have them around and they're the closest people to me. So that's amazing. And I know one way I've been doing for a long time is just reach out.
Yeah.
When there's an artist I find their work very inspiring, I just tell them. I comment on their post or I reply to their story, and I'm like, "Hey, you person, I just love your work," and I don't ask to do a collaboration or any of that. I just say that I love their work because being asked to do a collaboration if you don't know the person can be a bit, I don't know, awkward because you don't know how to respond, and if you don't, like, I personally don't collaborate with people I'm not aware of, or I haven't known for a bit of time already, because it's such a big investment of time that you want to work with people you're a bit familiar of.
Mm.
But just like commenting on those people's work, and that can go a long way because they might look at your profile and connect with your work too, and then there you go, you have a connection. Because if they like your work, they might respond. And if they don't respond, don't take it personal. Sometimes people get buried by like thousands of DMs. So don't go straight to like, oh, I might be like a shit artist if they don't respond to me. That's not necessarily true.
Yeah.
Um, we get like, if you get like a lot of engagement on your posts, you get a lot of DMs, and sometimes they get lost. But yeah, just comment on people's work, go in forums, I guess. There, like, go in events like in your hometown if there are any, or go to galleries. There are many ways to meet people,
Mm.
like that do art or any other stuff that could inspire you. So university is a great way to make connections, but there are many ways to do it other than that.
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, I think what worked best and what felt most worthwhile was reaching out to people that I look up to directly, right?
Yeah.
Like either through direct message or through email, and just like you said, like telling them what you like about their work and that you appreciate what they're doing. And through that, I met a lot of people, and I also worked with a lot of people that I always look up to, and it's so good to work with people you look up to because you learn so much from them, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's very nice. That's actually how I got to work with Mike in the beginning. Like I wrote him an email
Mm.
when I was, I don't know, when I was 16 or something, and then
Oh God.
only 2 years later he answered me. So like it's it can be very normal that you don't get a reply right
Yeah.
away. Maybe even never. But in that case, like it was 2 years later reply, but that basically started my whole career, my professional career, right?
Mm.
Like working together with him, and then through his connections, working with other people. So yeah, like definitely try it. Like even if most of the time you might not get a reply, it will probably be worth it.
Oh, absolutely. And like, just trying it out, it also breaks that stress barrier you may have, because it's stressful to reach out to people you don't necessarily know personally, but it's the internet. We're all artists. We consume. We like to see other people's work. So like, don't be afraid. I personally, I know that like whenever I receive a message of someone who says that they like my work, it really makes my day, and I really appreciate it. And because of that, sometimes I discovered amazing artists that I've started to follow and enjoy their work because of that. So you never know, and it's a great way for me to, and for you too, as from what I see, to build connections.
Yeah, for sure. Let's answer a question here from Keanu. He has two. The first one was, how do you come up with your ideas? That's a good question.
Good question. Yeah. Well, personally, I sometimes there's like two ways for me to do it. The first way is just to like mess around, you know. I do characters, and my characters usually have these like strange poses, like very unique, and sometimes I'll just open up that studio and play around, you know, like just move limbs around until I get something that to me strikes as a good pose. And just that sometimes can bring the inspiration to me. Or other times I'll just start with a mask because I do a lot of masks in my work. So if I don't know what to do on one day, I'll just open up ZBrush, start with the sphere, and then sculpt a mask and see where it goes. Because my sometimes I don't necessarily know where I'll end up, but when you let the shapes talk to you, that sounds a bit crazy, but some people might understand what I'm saying. But you know, when you work with like shapes and like even if you're drawing, sometimes the shape will ask for something. You'll have to let it speak and give it its place, and just that can influence the outcome of the piece later on. So whenever I sculpt masks, I'll do something random, and then I see something, and I'm like, that looks interesting. That's a nice shape. I like the way this connects to this, and I like the general negative space or the shape of the mask I'm creating, and then I'll just refine that very specific detail and then add something else, and then I have a mask that I like, and I just use it onto a character, and that will kickstart the process for a new piece. Sometimes I'll go to bed and I really want to sleep, and I have an idea pop to mind, so I gotta wake up, take a note on my phone, maybe do a really sketchy drawing with my thumb on my iPhone, just to remember the idea the next day when I wake up, and that's something that I've been doing sometimes. I have a few ideas on my phone that I haven't worked on yet, but sometimes I did have those late at night, and the next day I started working on it. So you have like those visions. Sometimes I do sketch. I'm not good at drawing, but I'll sketch in a like with a pen, so you cannot erase, and
Ah,
paper.
interesting.
Yeah, that's what I learned in an illustration class. You always the teacher was like really praising like sketching with a pen because you cannot erase, and I that kind of stuck with me because you know like if you're a perfectionist, you'll have a pencil and an eraser, and you'll erase as soon as you do a mistake. But sometimes like that mistake can be a source of inspiration for something else later. So never trash any sketch that you do. Never trash. I'm kind of a hoarder for that because I just keep everything just in case because you never know what can be used later on. So that's another good method. You just sketch some characters or something on your notepad. You cannot erase, so you got to keep it unless you burn the paper. Um,
You eat it.
but yeah, but that's been very useful for me. So um, yeah, there are many ways, and sometimes I'll just look at Pinterest, get some inspiration, or go outside. Or I'm inspired a lot by photography, of course, like portrait photography. So sometimes seeing the work of great photographers will inspire me in my pose choices, or the colors, or the type of lighting that I'll be using on my characters. So yeah, just you can find inspiration everywhere.
Yeah, I liked your tip with the pencil, like not being able to erase it. I want to try that out. It
Yeah.
sounds interesting. I think for me, I have also like two ways I usually create something. Like the first one is with like pure inspiration, like basically like dreaming of something or like having a very
Hmm.
intense emotion, and then just like wanting to put that into something like a image or a video or something. And that's always like a really natural process. It always feels like very like flowy and very natural, and like, oh yeah, this feels good to create. And then the other
Yeah.
one is also what you said, with just getting in there, just like trying out something, right? Like most of the time it's for me trying out a new tool or trying out a new way of doing something, and then like kind of like without expectations, just like playing around, and then noticing, oh wait, this is actually turning into something, and then just like keep experimenting where it leads, until it becomes something finished. So yeah, I would say those two things mainly for me.
Those are great tips. Yeah, great ways to get inspiration.
Got some more questions here. Keanu had another one. What do you do when you start losing the passion to create? Oof.
Oh God, that's that's such a big question.
Yeah.
Um, I think for some reason it's kind of like the same as what you've been discussing before. Like my answer is going to be picking stuff from what we've already said. First, when you lose the passion to create, just mess around. Open the software, mess around. Even if it's not going to be shared or even if it's not going to be used for anything, just do stuff. Sometimes if you just mess around with no big intention or something, you can stumble upon some accidents. And like Bob Ross, you get those happy accidents that can spark something in you. But also, in reference to what we talked about earlier, just getting out of your comfort zone. Like you said, you were using sculptures in real life, and then you used those scans to make the work you were creating at the time. I did a ring last year that was sculpted in ZBrush, but also then translated into the real world with casting real metal. um, just sometimes trying out new things will uh, spark something new in your mind. You'll find that initial passion that brought you into 3D or whatever medium you're working with. You'll find it again. It's going to be different, but it's that feeling is going to resurface somehow when you just go out of your comfort zone and try other stuff. I'm also a musician. I do music with my band. Also, I do personal. I have songs that I work on. I do photography whenever I'm on vacation or going like walking around, and just being able to like create in other mediums, it helps a lot. Like if I'm not inspired by what I'm doing in 3D at this very specific moment in time, I don't know. If I have my synths laying around, I'll just open up my synths, open up Ableton, and start jamming around, even though it's not going to end up to anything good. Like just changing that mindset for a moment will help you maybe find your passion back. And it's just like shifting sometimes helps a lot, because when you do the same thing over and over, it's easy to get lost and like just, I don't know, jaded by the whole thing. And I totally understand that feeling.
Yeah, yeah, I would also definitely agree with changing your approach usually helps with that. Yeah, like
Yeah,
even if it's like extreme change or just small changes, but yeah, approach change is definitely the biggest solution usually.
definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like um, like like one time I had like a very big creative burnout where I couldn't create anything for like 2 months straight or even three
Oh,
months,
damn.
and that scared me a lot. But then yeah, like I tried to take some time off, and then I mean, yeah, basically come back to what I was doing, but from a different approach, which is this online school now, basically.
Oh, really? Oh, nice.
Yeah, yeah. So like I'm still,
That's such a great way. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, still doing the same thing, but from a different direction. And yeah, it's
Yeah.
yeah, that's important to keep experimenting with that.
That's
Mm,
so cool. I'm glad you found your creativity back again, thanks to
yeah,
the school.
yeah. We got a question from Zach here. He's actually in the channel. Zach, do you want to talk to
Oh,
us?
Yeah, hello.
Hey, what's up,
hi
man?
there.
Oh, perfect, perfect. Yeah, so I have a question. I find, and we've kind of, you've already discussed a lot of this, how the creative process can be really spontaneous at times, and you just kind of build on to previous ideas. Um, and I find that there's like two ways, like there's the spontaneous side of things, and then there's the planned side of things. Like you can plan a lot for a project, or you can be very spontaneous in a project. And I find personally that I prefer being spontaneous. Like I hate planning. And I feel like that's one of my biggest limitations towards being a professional. In a way that um, you know how to plan effectively to make a good project, especially in a timely way. So I was wondering if you had thoughts on that and how to make the most of planning, even though you might be a spontaneous brain.
That's such a good question, because
Yeah.
I feel like it's sometimes it's a bit scary when you. I'm also more of a spontaneous person when it comes to my workflow, so sometimes it can be a bit scary to be hired, and then well, the client certainly has expectations, and you're like, well, now I gotta come up with something great. And it's definitely a scary feeling. What I personally like to do is make sure I get as much information. Like there are two ways. I feel like if sometimes some clients will give you like ultimate freedom, which is amazing. But in those instances, you got to make sure you set a really strict rule for rounds of revisions, because maybe they gave you ultimate freedom, but then you come up with something, but it's not exactly what they had in mind, but you didn't know that. But they gave you ultimate freedom, so you're supposed to just do whatever you want. But so that's not necessarily answering your question, but like if you happen to have a more spontaneous project for a client, you can always make sure that you're protected. Like, oh, it's 2 rounds of revisions, and if we go further and do more revisions, there's going to be an increased cost for that. That's a good way to protect yourself while keeping your preferred workflow. But what I found more, I don't know, reassuring on my end when I've been working with clients is just to get as much information as possible out of them in the pre-production phase. So you hop on a call with them and you discuss about their ideas. You ask for references, or they talk about their project and what they love and what they envision. And just having all of that information suddenly can help you a lot in figuring out what would work best, considering all of those things that they mentioned to you, even though they don't necessarily have a specific idea in mind. For me, it's been very helpful. And then what I personally like to do, depending on the project, is like first having an initial call, then they give me their references and inspirations and ideas. Then I come back maybe with a mood board of what I envision. You kind of have no choice but to have a small idea of what you're gonna do, because otherwise it might be scary for a client who's not necessarily into the just do anything kind of method, you know. So you still gotta do your best to find references that you like, maybe of your own work or other stuff like photography or sculptures or whatever, and present that to the client. And I usually like to, before doing any 3D, maybe hop onto like the sketching phase. And especially for animation, you do like maybe style frames or storyboards. I like the pen and paper method because it's so much faster. Sometimes just to draw stuff, even though it's not not looking good, sometimes it's just enough to convey an idea, and that will help you a lot, like secure yourself. Because if you establish the mood board, they have their general direction they want you to follow, and then you present like some style frames. Eventually, the idea will become much clearer in your mind, and you'll be surprised at how effective that method can be. I'm not the best at it, but that's something I've used a lot of times in the past. And when I would come up with a render, then the client would be like, "Oh, that's really cool," because of course it followed the sketch loosely or closely, and of course I was respecting the mood board references and everything that I provided to them as inspiration. And I hope that this can help. But that's something I've been doing for some projects where I couldn't just do whatever I wanted, and it's been helpful for me. But I'm pretty sure that Calvin could have a lot more insight, because you worked on so many different projects and with teams and like very professional pipelines. So I'll let you talk about it if you want to.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I was also like thinking about what I could answer for this. I like just in general question, like back to you a little bit. So your most experience is working as a solo artist?
Yeah, exactly. I've done like some projects with teams in the past. I've been hired by other artists to work with them on projects, but most of the time, like 90% of the time, I've been hired as a solo artist, and I was doing all the client relationships, all the invoicing, all of that, and all the creative direction. So it's a lot of pressure on one individual, but that's also what I've been doing the whole time, mostly. So yeah.
All right. Okay. Yeah, Zach, I think I can answer to you from I guess more like a production company sense. For you to be able to like plan something like a big project and then execute that plan in a good way. First of all, it really does take experience, in my opinion. Like I think you just need to have experienced those kind of like productions and see how they play out, know what kind of like potential roadblocks are, and know what needs to get done to get to specific points. So yeah, it's experience, but if you are starting out and you don't have that much experience, I would definitely reach out to people who do have experience, even if it's just to ask them about potential roadblocks, right? Just like pitch them the idea, or like tell them a little bit about the project and ask them what they would look out for, just like to give you little tips about it, like specifically for that project, because every project is very different and requires very different kind of like workflows or systems. So yeah, try to just learn from people around you who have that experience until you did enough projects to have your own idea on how to tackle stuff, I think. Does that
That's
answer
good
a
advice.
question? Thank you. Does that answer a question, Zach, or would you like to follow up on that?
No, great, thank you. I appreciate both of your answers. I think this is all relatively new to me, so I'm happy to hear your first takes.
Nice. All right.
Amazing. Thanks for your question.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. How much time do you still have for us? Yeah.
I'm still here for like we could keep going for like another 10, 15 if you want.
Okay, cool. I think then we can still answer like 2 questions, and then we can try out the inspiration, the imagination
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
meditation thing.
Yeah, let's do that.
All right, cool. Yeah, we got another one from Delcast here. What is your best collaboration you have done? Can you talk about it? I don't know if you mentioned it. I came a bit late.
Mm.
I don't think
I
we
guess
talked.
it depends.
We haven't talked about your best collaboration yet, right? Like, I mean, you said about Odessa, right? Like, that was the favorite project
Yeah.
that you ever worked on. But yeah, what's
Yep.
specifically collaboration then?
Ooh, it's such a tough question because there's so many of them. Um, if I had to choose, well, uh, there's so many. Uh, I'm scrolling on my Instagram feed right now. Well, I one collaboration is it a collaboration? Is it a collaboration? Well, I did like it's just a fun story.
Uh-huh.
I met this guy. He's a musician called De La Chute or De La Chute if you read it in English. He's a musician from Montreal, and I found out about his music on Spotify just randomly 4 years ago or 5 years ago almost. And I remember seeing that he was from Montreal, so I just reached out to him on Instagram. And when he replied to me, he was like, "Oh, I like your work too. It's so cool. Should we just go grab a beer?" And I'm like, "Sure, let's go." And we met right before there was how do you say that in English? You know, when you have to come back home before a certain time, a curfew.
Oh yeah, the curfew. Yeah.
During COVID, it was during COVID, right before the curfew started. We went for a beer and we met in person. And I guess it's collaboration because his music inspired me, and I was like, "Oh, I have this idea for one of your songs, and I would love to make a visual for you pro bono, just for fun." I have this vision of this character with fishes floating around. I could always link back to this piece later, but and he was very stoked by the idea, and that's one moment where I just like had an idea right in my mind, and I just printed it directly. Like I replicated the image in my mind onto the computer. It's like a bit lower down in my feed if anyone wants to look back. It's like this masked character with golden fishes floating around.
I'm trying to
So
find it to like show it here in the stream too right now.
can I send you a link maybe
Yeah,
on
that would
Discord?
work. Yeah,
In the stream chat. There we go.
that also works. Yeah, that's perfect actually.
Oh, I lost you. Where are you?
I
gotta
got
go
it.
onto the live stream. Okay, I got it.
There we go.
Yeah,
It's-
so this thing. And funny enough, like uh I do music as well, and we jammed together sometime this summer. And like 2 weeks later, he was like, "Yeah, my keyboardist for my project is not cutting it. Would you like to play the keyboards for my tour?" And I was like, "Oh God, you sure about that?" And I said yes. So we played a
Sick.
big festival in Montreal, and we did a 4 show tour in Ontario and Quebec. And I don't know, I was wearing like, because he's wearing a mask and he's like anonymous. So all the musicians on stage were actually just wearing that suit with a mask and all that. So I was
Oh,
wearing
cool.
the outfit on stage, and I got to play with those guys. It was so much fun. So that's probably one of my favorite collabs, you know, like seeing a musician, their music inspired me, I created visual, and then it made a connection. And like 4 years later, I was playing music in his band, like in his live band. So I really love that opportunity. It was so cool.
Yeah, that's super cool. That like it's basically like a collaboration outside of your usual space, right? Like you connected and then you got to collaborate on making live music. That's super cool.
Exactly. And I think that's a good example of how you don't necessarily have to stick to one thing and you can do a lot of stuff that brings you joy. And that certainly was a highlight of me for my like 2024 year. I definitely love that.
Awesome. Yeah. Yeah, very also yeah, very cool answer to a very cool question.
Well, thank you. It's a good question.
I think we're through with the questions. If anyone still has one, we would do one more. But I don't see any more right now. Yeah. Yeah, all right. Let's move on to the mind exploration now.
Oh God.
It's gonna get intense, man.
Oh yeah, I'm
No,
aware.
no, honestly, it's a very chill. It's a very chill experience.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, so basically, I'm gonna. It's like a kind of like a guided meditation. I'm just gonna ask you to imagine things, and you're gonna walk me through what you see, what you imagine, what you smell, what you see, what you feel. Right? Just
Okay, yeah, sure.
yeah, just try to take us as far as possible into your inner workings as you feel comfortable with.
And do I
Mm,
have to close my eyes and just think?
Usually closing your eyes helps to imagine things, right? I'm not sure what kind of like imagination you have yet, but yeah, if you like to, you can close your eyes for sure.
All right, well, let's get started. I'm scared.
It's gonna be chill. It's
Let's
gonna be
do
chill.
it.
All right, here we go. Okay, to start off, I would just like you to try to, yeah, just relax and try to be with yourself, right? Just like be in your own mind, be open to whatever ideas come to you.
Yep.
And when you're ready with that, I would like you to start imagining an apple.
Mm-hmm.
What do you see?
I actually see two apples. I see a green apple, like a Granny Smith, and like a Gala or red apple simultaneously. I cannot choose. It seems like they keep coming back and forth, or they live like right next to each other.
Interesting. Are they like both next to each other, or it's almost like you have to decide between them two, those two?
Right now they're next to each other, but sometimes it switches from just one and then the other one.
Uh-huh. Can you explain to me how that switching looks like?
It's like a specific second I see the two apples next to each other, like kind of like if they were like printed paper images of the apples, and they just like sometimes you one sheet of paper goes on top of the other one. It's it's kind of like that, but in a very instantaneous way. It's not just like it's just like
Mm-hmm.
if that makes sense.
Interesting, yeah. Um, can you get closer to those apples or that one apple, whatever happens, and explain to me how it looks, what you see there? Like a close-up kind of thing?
It's very blurry, but I can imagine it a bit bigger. I think it's it's like a very generic apple that you would see in an ad. It's like perfect looking. It's a bit elongated. It's not necessarily round. I see a stem. There's no leaf on the stem of the apple. It has like some, like those brown rough bruises that they have. There's a few of that, and it's still switching between green and red. Um, and there's like dots, like different colored dots on the red version. So it's not just a bright red or fully uniform red. It's like a little spotted here and there.
Interesting. Um, when you mentioned earlier that it was a bit blurry, like when you compare what you imagine to like your real life sight, like how much percentage can you imagine basically compared to real life?
Uh, like the difference in realism.
I guess so, yeah, or like in clearness, how you see it.
It depends for what I do with the apple. If I keep it like a tiny, like if it's like, I don't know, it looks like it's 4 centimeters high in my mind. If it's at that scale, it's pretty clear. But when I zoom in, it's like I'm seeing through a peephole and I'm seeing parts of the apple. But then I can reconstruct if I want to. For a split second, I can see it fully, but sometimes it'll be a bit blurry or just like missing. You know, like your vision essentially is not fully clear. It's just this very small part of your vision that is detailed and clear and accurate, and
Yeah.
your brain makes up for the rest of it. So it's kind of like that. Like if I could like focus on some details, but then the rest gets blurry a little bit. But then I can see a full apple at some like it. I guess it's just that I cannot keep a constant image. It moves a lot.
Interesting. Okay, okay. All right, let's try something new then. I would like you to try to pick that apple up with your hand.
In my mind.
Yes.
Okay. I think I picked it up.
What do you see? What do you experience?
I took it with my right hand. I took it from the top. You know, like I reached out to it, like from to like the apple is standing up, the stem going up, perpendicular to the floor or whatever, the counter, and I took it like that, and then I just repositioned it in my hand, like I'm holding I'm holding it sideways, and I can like kind of rotate it a little bit, move my hand around because I know what it's like to hold an apple, you know? I can I move my thumb and my fingers around to spin it onto its own axis to see like every detail. Yeah, that's as far as it goes for me.
Uh-huh. Do you like when you imagine that apple in your hand, do you have any kind of like physical sensation of that feeling of holding that apple?
Va- Vaguely, vaguely, I can feel some sort of weight, but it's very abstract and distant of a feeling. It's
Okay.
not super vivid, but I can because I have the experience and of holding it, and I can kind of like sort of feel it from that experience, I guess. But if I was holding another item that was boring or unknown, maybe it would be different, or I could have a vague idea. But yeah, I definitely like can feel its weight a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I also imagine myself picking out the stem out of the apple.
Oh, you picked it out right now? You
Oh,
tore it off?
I can, and then it's back if I want to, but I can.
I would like you to next have a bite of that apple. See if you can taste anything or what it tastes like.
Oh, that's very strange. I don't know what's like the process behind this, but like the first thought is that it was kind of juicy
Mm-hmm.
and sweet. That's for sure. When I imagined it, it was not like sour or I guess it's more like tarty or something like that, like more like a sugary apple, and like sort of hard flesh, not too soft, not too hard. Um, yeah, that's what my mind went to straight up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And do you like that sensation of taste? Can you kind of like imagine that? How clear is that for you?
It's not super clear. I think it's like I can I can like recollect a previous experience of eating an apple, but I don't taste it like physically. I think I can taste it mentally because of memories and what I've known. So like I don't know how detailed it is for real. Uh,
That could be an interesting direction. Let's try to. Can you kind of like try to bring back one of like a memory of eating an apple from your past, like something that you maybe can remember very vividly? Is that possible?
mm, Gotta think about it. Yeah, yeah, I can.
Okay, and if you play back that memory, does that change any type of the experience you have?
Mm. A little bit, but I don't think it's getting stronger that much. But
Mhm.
it definitely feels a bit more real, like I'm replaying a memory because I'm not just imagining it or trying to make something out of scratch. I remember something from the past.
Mhm.
Um, but it's still like very abstract in terms of like just tasting it or
Yeah, so you would say the visual, kind of like how you like the visual is the clearest, and taste, smell, touch is weaker than visual.
visual touch is pretty good, I think. But the smell, I'm not sure I can smell it much. Taste a little bit, like
Mhm.
25% compared to the rest.
I see. Okay. Okay, interesting. Yeah, cool. I would like to try something abstract now. Like you already had some kind of like abstract directions with the apple switching around.
Yeah.
Now I would like you to turn that apple into a rocket ship.
Whoa. A rocket ship. Okay. Do you want me to explain?
Yes, yes. Walk me
Okay,
through what's
perfect.
happening.
Oh yeah. Well, I kind of see a blend of like a Millennium Falcon with like a capsule that would be shot off a rocket. So there's like windows, a lot of details, but it has the shape of an apple. It's like, but it's a bit more conical than the apple itself, I would say.
Mhm. So is that the same apple? Like you can just like held that apple and it morphed, or like how did it happen?
It's like the shape kind of morphed a little bit conically, and details got added onto it, but it swaps between like the apple shape and the spaceship shape at the same time. It's not like static.
Uh-huh, uh-huh. Still like
Yeah.
similar to how you explained the apple switching between each other?
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting. Mm, okay. Can you do a little scene with that Apple spaceship for me? Like have it fly around the galaxy, and like can you imagine a little scene happening with that?
Yeah, I imagined it floating around the Earth actually. I see
Ah,
like the blue atmosphere, the blue haze in the bottom left corner, like it's a very wide composition, and I see the apple kind of like floating around. So I guess is it more like a space station at this point? Maybe. But it's kind of like what I imagine. I see the black space with the stars further away, and the apple is just like floating. It's not like it's not working. It's not like it's just paused in the space. It's not like actually shooting away from something. It's very calm. It's a calm scene.
mm-hmm. You if you try to turn this into like a, for example, like artwork that you want to publish, what would you do? What are the steps now?
That's a good question. Well, I would if I wanted to make an artwork. I don't know if I would publish it necessarily, but I would start with modeling the rocket that I imagine. I would probably start with a base shape, probably sculpt it out in ZBrush or VR almost, uh, and maybe use a reference or draw it first. Actually, I think I would draw it first on paper and then try to replicate it in 3D, and then I would like um, take that and create the scenery in Cinema 4D, create the earth, the atmosphere, uh, generate the stars and all that.
Can you imagine this whole process vividly in your mind right now? Like kind of like going through the software, through drawing it, generating.
Yeah, yeah, it's kind of. I'm not a hard surface modeler, but I can definitely see how it would go into making that. I can see where I would put my camera, how I would put the elements in my scene. Uh, I see the colors.
Mm. So how does the like if you approach kind of like finishing up this artwork, like yeah, I basically would like you to like imagine the finished image right now, right? Like how
Yeah.
does it feel to you?
It feels like a still from a sci-fi movie. It's not necessarily like my work, but it looks like a pretty cool still from any sci-fi, like I don't know, like Gravity or something, Interstellar. It looks pretty standard, I would say.
Can you imagine a song for this? Can you imagine some music playing for this?
Uh, I imagine some like low humming synths, very bassy, with some very spacey and sparkly sounds, very washed out, and very, I don't know, very ambient and soothing.
Do you feel like you could actually like make that music? Does it feel very real to you? Like can you kind of like
Yeah,
yeah?
yeah, 100%.
Nice, nice. Okay. Then as a last step, I would like you to imagine that spaceship Apple exploding.
Oh, shit. Okay. Well, it just exploded out of nowhere. There's debris everywhere. The explosion was orange, and that's all that we see in the scene. It's a bit further away, but we still see a bit of the Earth, and it's quite dramatic, unfortunately. It
Is it sad? How does it feel?
feels like unexpected and sad, yeah, because it was such a peaceful setting. It feels dramatic.
See. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, with that, I want to welcome you back to the real world.
Whoa. I was afraid I was like looking in the wrong direction for a second.
No, you were face to us the whole time.
Ugh.
How did you like this? Like, what did you? Yeah, how did you like it?
It was a very interesting process. I think it's something I should like do more and like exercise my mind because I'm pretty sure I could be better at imagining those things. And I feel like I was maybe resorting to what I've known or experience I had already, and like my like familiar stuff I've been watching or consuming. So I feel like there's a way to practice this in order to like I don't know, just generate and let your mind wander more and uh, express itself a bit more. I felt a bit rigid because it's like the first time I actually do something like that for real.
Uh-huh.
Um, but yeah, it was very interesting.
Ah, okay. So you've never tried like, I mean, I guess you probably do like imagine your artworks before you like get into them
Yeah, yeah,
sometimes,
yeah,
right? Yeah.
yeah. But
So,
it's different to like go and be like, okay, now turn it into this or that.
hmm.
It's very different to me. So it was a very interesting challenge.
See, okay, that's cool. How like did you learn anything about like your own thought process like imagination doing this?
Well, it's interesting that like you can essentially start with something as random as an apple and come up with an idea,
Hmm.
like just and have a kind of clear image of what you want to do with it,
Hmm.
So like if I had to do it right now, I would exactly know my composition. I could sketch it and I would not hesitate. I know what I have in mind. So that's pretty cool because I wouldn't have to test out a lot of things. I could, but like I also know that I imagined this composition and I can go straight at it and make all the models and stuff that I need to make this image a reality.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah.
So I think that's very interesting.
Nice. Yeah, I found it interesting with your like things switching between two forms. That was a very interesting part of your imagination. I have
Mm.
not heard that before.
Oh,
Um,
really?
yeah, yeah. I've like I gotta say, like I have like something similar myself, but it's not kind of like switching. It's more like liquid. As soon as I don't focus on
Yeah.
something, it starts to like morph into some kind of liquid. It becomes like abstract automatically. And I
Yeah.
felt like it sounds similar to you, where like it was easy for you to imagine like a big whole thing, but then when you try to like focus on something, it would become blurrier, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Hmm.
It's
Interesting.
not like 100% clear. I can see stuff in my mind, but as soon as you look at it or think about it too long, it gets blurry and it changes, and my mind is doesn't want to cooperate, and we'll be like, oh, here's this instead, you know. And then that's why it switches like that. So it's hard to stay focused on something for so long. Yeah.
Are you like when you said you're like not that experienced with sketching, right? Like, do you have like like, is it easy for you to sketch, or have you tried to like learn more about sketching?
It's just that I'm not like necessarily skilled at it. I had some classes in university where we had to draw actual real life people, and I had illustration classes where I had to draw a lot. So I don't consider myself a good illustrator by any means. I can do like general stuff. Like maybe I can find something. Yeah, so maybe some people could recognize this. Let's see, it's reversed.
Yeah, nice.
So this was a sketch. So that's what it looks like to like in my books. But this is a piece I've made like a year or two ago. Let me send it to you.
I think we've seen it today also, like on your real on your
Yep.
At
There
least
you go.
I've watched it today.
Sent it in the stream.
I got it. All right, we're looking at it.
So yeah, it's pretty close.
Yeah.
So that's the extent of what I do.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. No, I was interested in that because I felt like for me, I found kind of like that connection there, that it's really hard for me to draw things because like whenever I imagine something, it starts to morph into something else automatically.
Oh
And
yeah, I see.
Yeah, and I think that's like why I have a lot of trouble drawing. But it seems like you can like still get far enough to then turn it into something that you want to complete, right?
Yeah. I fortunately I can manage to do that. Also, it helped because I made this character before, so I could use the character as a reference, but then I knew what kind of pose I would want to make, and I knew I wanted the character to have a sword and be in this sort of position. So like having all these elements already figured out, or sort of, helped me make the sketch much more easily than if I was starting from scratch and imagining a mask and outfit just like that, you know.
Yeah. All right, cool. Yeah, that's basically the end of the interview with like the little
Oh,
night
amazing.
exploration thing.
Well, that was great. Thanks for showing me this exercise.
No, awesome. Thank you. Yeah, very happy that you came over today for the interview and that you took so much time to talk with us and answer questions.
My
Um,
pleasure.
yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, I hope we'll hear us again soon. And yeah, I'll switch back to the only me talking mode. And yeah, I hope you're gonna have a successful day finishing that job today.
Thank you so much, Calvin, and I'm really glad to have been a part of this call today. And it was so nice to get to talk to you in person, sort of, after all these years.
Yeah,
So thanks to everybody who tuned in and asked questions. It really means a lot. And yeah, thanks again. I'm really glad I was able to do an interview with you like that.
awesome. Yeah, thank you very much, man. I'll see you soon.
Take care. Have a nice day. Yes. See you.
Day. Bye bye.
Bye.
All right, everyone. Yeah, that was a really nice interview with Alexy. Yeah, very cool. Very nice guy. I enjoyed it a lot. I think he also enjoyed it. It was very nice to see. Okay, guys. I'm gonna end the stream now, but I'm gonna be back in around 15 minutes for the Create Together stream, where we will go through student submissions to like help them overcome roadblocks, or like help them complete projects and learn something new. Yeah. So I'll see you again in 15 minutes. Bye bye. Oh wait, actually, let's do the goodbye thing here. Eric, you wanna do a quick scan? Tornado. Beautiful.